Hello, my name is Lauren Comstock, and I will be explaining and debunking a pseudoscience claim surrounding two holy sites in Japan. There is little research on the stone structures Ishi-no-Hoden and Masuda Iwafune, so many people have created outrageous speculations to explain their significance in history. The first section of the video will consider Ishi-no-Hoden, also known as the Stone Treasure Palace, and the second section will examine the Japanese holy site Masuda Iwafune. Tomokazu Uzo's Archaeological Heritage Management in Japan paper considered the physical characteristics of the stone, which was carved out of the bedrock on the mountainside. This structure is a megalithic monument in Takasago City, Hyogo Prefecture in Japan. It is 5.5 meters in height and weighs approximately 465 tons. In season 18 of the History Channel show Ancient Aliens, television writer and producer Giorgio Tsoukalos meets with ancient astronaut theorist Takahara Mikama. The inaccurate claims generated were based on ancient Japanese legends and the appearance of the stone to be floating above a body of water. Ancient Japanese legends discuss gods traveling over Japan on a skyship made of rock, which is known as the Heavenly Rock Ship. Tsoukalos claims that Ishi-no-Hoden was an effort made by ancestors to officially document extraterrestrial visitation in Japan. He further argues that stone was used since the color and strength of the material would be reminiscent of a spacecraft. Furthermore, the water below the megalith has been a point of intrigue for tourists, as well as a piece of evidence for natives who place their faith in mythology. Structures of this nature are known to draw the secular and religious together. Records have shown that the reservoir have never dried up, and there have been accounts that the water level rises as the tide in the sea comes in. The magical water is the connective piece between the stone and the earth, as it is believed to further support the heavenly rock ship's image. This episode only questioned the purpose behind the construction, not the archaeology of the site itself. Therefore, the claim can be debunked by describing the studied purposes of the site. The stone formation is located in the middle of the Tatsuyama hill and is said by experts to be a symbol for the tradition of the Tatsuyama quarry. A quarry is a site where raw materials are extracted from the Earth's surface. The area on the outskirts of the Takasago city contains stone quarry centers, where this process has occurred for roughly 1,600 years since the mid-Kofun period. Understanding the surrounding site is essential in providing experts with a perspective to analyze Ishi-no-Hoden because there is little research about the stone's origin. This site's mystery is partially due to the absence of tools, artifacts, and inscriptions, which are elements typically used in gathering archaeological information. Experts believe that the Ishi-no-Hoden dates back to the Jomon Period, 14,000 to 300 BC. The Jomon is known for sophistication of material culture, specifically seen through large ceremonial features. This characteristic of the period is an important piece in debunking the claim that the megalith was made to be a documentation of extraterrestrial visitation, because the trait aligns with a hypothesis proposed by published archaeologist Uzo. Through his research and knowledge of the field, Uzo has concluded that the Ishi-no-Hoden is likely an unfinished stone compartment protecting a coffin. Furthermore, he thinks it was meant to be placed in the emperor's grave in the Yamato area. This is a much more reasonable conclusion in comparison to the one proposed in Ancient Aliens. Furthermore, this is a prime example of Occam's razor, which states that the best explanation is the hypothesis that explains a series of observations with the least amount of additional assumptions. Essentially, people should acknowledge the simplest explanation first. Since the time period of the megalith's proposed construction is known for large ceremonial features, it is logical that the stone is protecting a coffin for a significant historical figure. The second Japanese holy site we will be evaluating is Masuda Iwafune, located in the Tokachi district of the Nara Prefecture. The site was named after the Masuda Lake, now known as Talopali Lake, which is near the rock structure. Iwafune translates over to shiprock, which is partially responsible for the reason behind the false claims. The rock ship is made of solid granite and measures 11 by 8 meters and is 4.5 meters in height. The structure is approximated to weigh 800 tons. Within the same ancient alien segment, the astronaut theorists discuss Masuda Iwafune because the sites shared similarity in their legends. This rock is intriguing due to the fact that it does not resemble any other architecture in Japan. Therefore, the pseudoscientists made observations to connect the grid-like structures of the stones to those seen in Indian structures, merely by presenting side-by-side images with no further explanation. They acknowledged that some researchers believe that the stone was a tomb, although they argue for the validity of their argument that Masuda Iwafune is meant to depict the skyboat scene in ancient Japanese stories. The Iwafune, or rock ship, was said to come down from heaven to allow the gods to roam around Earth. Professor Waniak explains that Japanese mythology often requires a physical channel of communication to be generated between Earth and heaven. Ancient astronaut theorists believe that mythology is supporting evidence for the stone being a representation of flying vehicles witnessed in the ancient past. The mystery of Masuda Iwafune can be explained in consideration of another archaeological site, Sakafune Ishi. This site's central trough is at an angle of 13 degrees north in relation to the due east-west line. Furthermore, this angle is precisely parallel to the ridgeline of Masuda Iwafune. Rather than mere coincidence, scholars believe that ancient people purposely implemented the parallelism to aid in the planting of rice. The spring Doyo entry was an essential solar point for Japanese agriculture. This time begins 18 days prior to the beginning of a solar summer. By positioning on the west of the Masuda Iwafune's ridgeline, someone would be able to determine the sunset and starting date of the spring Doyo entry. The 13-degree offset of Sakafune Ishi is believed to also help cite the sun setting. In consideration of cultural support, paddy rice is grown in a wet field method of agriculture, so the spring Doyo entry was a useful warning for the beginning of the agricultural season. Associate Professor Stephen Renshaw notes that there are records from the Edo era that describe Masuda Iwafune's base as a monument that commemorates the Masuda Lake nearby. Furthermore, there are no ancient records that reflect the replication of skyboats in the region. Another line of reasoning proposed is that the stone is the remains of a tomb built for two people of royalty, which was even mentioned in the Ancient Aliens episode. Although researchers have not landed on a single explanation for the purpose of this site, there is no logical reason to believe it was a skyboat. Furthermore, the TV producer leading the segment, Sakalos, asked about the site being an entrance to a Buddhist temple. However, the researchers he interviewed stated that Masuda Iwafune predates Buddhism. Therefore, it is a challenge to take so-called scientists seriously when there is a lack of evidence and contradictory information within the video. Both of the sites investigated in this video involved claims regarding extraterrestrial involvement. The topic is interesting because not only do the people making the claims have a belief in extraterrestrial beings, but their explanations assert that the ancient peoples who constructed the sites also believed and encountered said gods. Neil Dagnall's paper considers the psychology behind these beliefs through considering reality testing. Reality testing is a psychology term that means the ability to assess a situation for what it truly is instead of the way our mind wishes it to be. This idea is important because one's lack of reality testing has been used to explain the development of extraterrestrial belief. The acceptance of extraterrestrial explanations over conventional alternatives, such as the ones discussed in this video, can be due to an absence of analytical, rational processing. People are often interested in the thrilling ideas of such beings, which causes them to ignore the practical statements. In the context studied, the pseudoscientists were unable to evaluate the logical and plausible nature for the purpose of these sites. From a physical science perspective, there is a lack of realistic methodology for detecting extraterrestrial beings. Kyogo Enya's comparative study considers alien life on Mars, but notes that the detection methods described can, quote, also be useful for searching for extraterrestrial life in any celestial environment, end quote. The article discusses multiple methods that could be used to better understand the hypothetical presence of extraterrestrials, none of which were mentioned in the Ancient Aliens episode, nor are there documents showing these methods being used at the sites. The origin of the episode's claims cannot be accepted since no archaeological evidence was provided for the function of the two sites. Only mythological beliefs were used as justification. Thank you so much for watching my video. A list of my references is provided in the description box if you want to learn more about Ishi-no-Hoden or Masuda Iwafune. I hope you enjoyed learning about this mysteriously fascinating sites as much as I did.